The wood shop is sponsored by Chefware Kits and Easy Wood Tools. Alright, welcome back. I turned this little alabaster pot the other day and I put some pictures up, and I had some questions on what kind of tools to use and how it cuts. Jason and I traded him some paint chips he sent me a box of this. It's really actually pretty easy to turn. I used, you can use traditional tools with it. It dulls them pretty fast. You can use the carbide cutter, seemed to work the best with it. But I was going to turn another one, but this little pot took me 3 hours to make this. So it's way too long, and it's basically just making the same cut over and over again. So, but what I do have is the cutoff. I parted this off from the base here, so I'm going to put this back on the lathe and make a lid for it, and that way I can show you how it cuts with the tools and finish this off. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so here's the piece. I just turned a little tenon down on the end of it so I could grab it in the jaws here. I'm going to have the dust collector on because the stuff it's just like turning a bottle of baby powder. It'll fill the shop if you don't. So I'm going to just do a voiceover on the whole thing and explain to you a little bit how it cuts. But let's go ahead and lock that in there. All right, there we go. Let me get everything set up and the dust collector turned on, and we'll get going. All right, I'm just using a carbide parting tool to cut the tenon for the lid here. I left the footage in real time, but I did cut some of it out because it's basically just going back and forth, making the same cut. Alright, I'm just using a round carbide cutter to clean up the lid. You can use traditional tools, they just dull really fast, so you're back and forth to the grinder a lot. The carbide one seems to hold up pretty well. I did the whole pot and hollowed it out with this one cutter right here, and now I'm working on the lid, and it seems to still be cutting pretty decent. I did cut out a little bit of the footage here, just basically the same thing. I'm bringing the size of the lid down and cleaning up the face of it. Alright, I started the lathe speed out at 700 and then turned it up to about 1,000. It seems to cut nice right around there, but I'm not an expert on this, so if you want to turn some of this, do some more research and find out what exactly they recommend. And I'm sure it depends on the piece too. I'll show you some pictures at the very end here of the piece I turned, and they do have some stress cracks inside of it. I didn't have any issues or catches, but you'll see, what looks like a giant stress crack inside the rock. The dust seems to make the tool rest a little bit sticky. I noticed it when I was cleaning up the face here. So I ran a candle over it a couple of times to try and get it to run smooth, but you can kind of see where it's starting to stick a little bit. Alright, I'm just using regular sandpaper. It does clog it up really fast, so you need to change it out. The higher the grit, the faster it clogs. So if you're doing 400 and 600, it clogs up almost immediately. And then I went ahead and switched to the micro mesh after I got done with 600, and I used the micro mesh 1500 up to 12,000. And it seemed to put a nice little finish on it. I didn't finish it with anything else, it's just bare. I'm just going to clean up the bottom of the lid here, and it actually sands. Pretty fast. Look at that, it's almost completely cleaned up. There we go, and that's just 100 grit. I'll take a couple more grits to it and clean it all the way up. All right, I'm gonna make a finial for it. Some of you remember a couple of weeks ago I went to Goodwill and found some wood, so this was the little baseball bat. I just cut it off with the bandsaw, turned a little collar down there so I could put it in the chuck here, and I'm gonna use that for the finial. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and speed the footage up here on the Finial. I think we've all seen this before, and it's Ironwood is what I'm using. All right, I'm just gonna sand that and I'll glue it onto the handle. All right, there we go. I just put a little bit of Gorilla Glue on the bottom of the Finial and put it in a clamp, and that seemed to do the trick. The stress crack I was talking about, I'm gonna put some pictures up at the very end so you can kind of see it. So it's that whole chunk right there. You can't feel it, but it's inside the rock, and I'm not sure whether it's a weak spot or what it actually is. And these little dark spots on it too, they seem to be a little bit harder than the rest of the rock, because when I was sanding it, they polished up and shined a lot more than the rest of it. But all right, and it's 4.5 inches tall and almost 4 inches around. All right, as always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.